welcome back to the channel. I guess you can see that I've got the hood open into the service position on my 81 300 SD, and basically I'm going to be starting today to replace all of the radiator, the radiator itself, the hoses, water pump, basically everything else that I showed you in the last video. And yeah, as you can tell, I'm definitely not wearing my nicest clothes, because getting underneath the hood of this thing and working on it is, yeah, you don't want to wear your clean clothes doing it, because it's a 40-year-old diesel and not the cleanest thing in the world. So I will be wearing some latex gloves and yeah, all of that. So I guess we'll get after it. And one of the first things that I'm going to do is undo the battery, just because you don't really want to be messing around with belts and all of that. If the engine decides to crank, and then we'll start draining the radiator. All right, first things first, we'll get under here and we'll undo this battery, and I'll get the radiator cap off of it, and yeah, then we'll start draining it. I like to pull the negative battery cable off, especially when I'm working on an older vehicle, just to make sure that, that engine doesn't crank over. Because with what I'm going to be doing here, pulling this radiator and water pump and messing with the belts, you don't want to take a chance of, having something happen electrical and having the engine crank over and you have your hand on a belt, because that would not be fun. So now that we got the battery disconnected, the cap off of the reservoir tank, we can get in here. And I'm not going to show you guys exactly how I'm going to do it up underneath the car on how to drain it. I'll just take the new radiator and show you where the drain spout basically is at on it. Okay, basically your drain on the radiator is just right here on the very bottom, and some of them might have a little bit different of a fitting, where you can use a flathead screwdriver or whatever. But I can't remember what is original on these radiators that came in the car, but I'm pretty sure it's a flathead that's on the bottom of that radiator. But this right here, this is what you want to take out to get the basically to drain your cooling system on it. And I'll go ahead and we'll get that draining right now. Okay, I've already ran into my first problem, which is not untypical on a vehicle that is as old as this 300 SD. The drain on the radiator down there is just completely frozen off, and I can't get it to turn whatsoever. So basically I'm just going to pull the main line here coming off of the coolant reservoir, and I'm going to pull that off of the radiator down at the bottom, and that will allow basically everything to drain out. But whenever you do this, it's a lot easier if I could get that if I could have gotten that drain to drain off the radiator out of the, where it's supposed to drain from, because, it just drains out so much easier. But with doing it by taking a hose off, it can get pretty messy pretty quick. So if you're going to do that, you want to make sure to have a, some floor dry, some big container to be able to contain it, something, because you don't want to get that all over your floor. So I'm going to start off with pulling this hose, the overflow, I think that's what it's called, hose. Going to pull off this air intake tube, and then we'll get down there on the bottom and disconnect the main reservoir hose. And now, if you're doing this and you're not replacing the radiator, you want to be careful that you don't break this fitting off of your radiator, because basically you do that, and good luck getting it back on there, because I've actually done it on my old wagon out there. I broke that thing off, and I thought, maybe I can get back in there with some sort of epoxy and glue that back on. But yeah, it just doesn't work. So, and the same thing goes over here on the coolant reservoir. You want to be careful with that, because you'll basically end up in the same predicament if you break that one off too. And that's actually a very nice air intake tube. You just don't hardly see them like that anymore. Okay, now that debacle is over, getting that coolant tank hose off the radiator, and basically anytime you do that, you might as well just plan on using floor dry, because it's just not going to go into one container. It's going to hit stuff, and it's just basically going to go everywhere. My shop is going to need a thorough cleanup after dealing with all of this. But basically, now we're going to get in here. I'm going to remove this upper radiator hose, and then possibly I might try to get this fan shroud out, and we'll get down onto the bolts for the alternator to loosen the belts up on it, and go from there. And I almost forgot my gloves. All right. Yeah, that hose. Yeah, it's definitely seen better days. And basically, how you get the fan shroud off of one of these. Basically, I think on a lot of older Mercedes, they've got these little clips right here that you just pull up and out of there. Basically, just kind of like that. And we'll see if this will fit up in between the radiator and the fan, which I might, maybe. And maybe not. So I'll just have to get in here and take out these bolts on the fan, and yeah, we'll go from there. And before I get in there to take the bolts out of the fan, I need to loosen up that radiator. I need to loosen up that alternator, so that I can get the belts off of it. But first, I want to get in here and loosen up the bolts that actually hold the fan on, because it's a lot easier to loosen up the bolts whenever you have tension on it, and who knows how long it's been basically since those bolts have been out, if they've ever been out. But we'll go ahead and break those bolts loose, and then we'll go down there and loosen up the alternator. Okay, basically, I've been working on trying to get these 4 bolts right here out of this fan, and I'm here to tell you they're not wanting to come out. So I did manage somehow to get the fan shroud off and up and out of there. Just had to kind of work it a little bit, but I went ahead and I pulled the bolts out of the fan here, and we're actually just going to take the fan, well, maybe not. Yeah, well, that didn't work. I guess I'll probably have to put those bolts back in, because that fan does not slide off in the front. But yeah, I've just been trying to get these bolts out down here, and they're being kind of a pain. Okay, well, it's kind of a new day today. I stopped last night. Basically, whenever I got down to the fan, I wanted to soak the bolts with a little bit of penetrating spray to, kind of help them come out, because I knew that, those were probably going to be a little bit of an issue. But, and they were a little bit of an issue. But if you can see down here, I did manage to get the water pump, the fan, the fan clutch assembly, and all of that taken off. And yeah, basically, one of the bolts that held the fan on, it didn't want to turn. I got all of the rest of them turned out, using a little bit of heat from a, little propane torch. But that last one, let's see. I think, yeah, this is it right here. Um, you can see that the edges on that thing are, they're rounded, but they're not 100% just totally rounded off. And, the bolt, it doesn't look too bad, but I'm going to be replacing that bolt. I had to get on there and heat it up pretty good and get some vice grips on it. And that's how I finally managed to get it turned out. But, working on an old car like this, you're going to run into problems like that just because, some of these bolts might have possibly been in here for 40 years and you don't know what kind of, corrosion has happened to the bolts and, whatnot. But one thing for sure, you definitely, you don't want to get down there with a, with a big old Milwaukee, power ratchet or anything like that. I like to use just, regular, hand tools, ratchet, sockets, and a wrench, just to, kind of get a feel for, how things are going to come apart. But yeah, basically now what I'm going to try to work on doing is getting this mounting flange here cleaned up and, get some of the old gasket material off of it where the water pump goes. And, I'm pretty much ready to almost start reassembling. I just got to pull the two clips up here on top of the radiator and pull it out, and yeah, I'll be ready to start cleaning it up a little bit more, and then we'll be ready to go back together with it. Okay, I'm getting ready to put this, well, I've already got the water pump put back on, but one thing that I thought I would mention, I've already cleaned up all of my bolts on my bench grinder that has a wire wheel on it, because you really want to get these bolts cleaned up and, all of that just to make sure that you can, get them back together easily and all of that. But you also, when it comes to this water pump here, you want to use some type of sealant on them. Any bolt that goes into a water passage or where the bolt will come into contact with, any type of coolant or water, you want to put a sealant around the bolt or it will leak. So basically, I just got some of this pipe thread sealant here, and just kind of going to be using that to put these bolts in on this water pump. All right, I just thought I'd stop and give you guys a little bit of an update on, basically what I've gotten done so far. I've gotten in here, got the radiator put in, water pump bolted up, everything tightened down good. But there is one other thing that I forgot to mention that I did buy, and I bought these about a month ago, but it's these tranny cooler lines down here on the bottom of the radiator. I did, I forgot to, include that in the parts video, but I did go ahead and I got them put on, got them tightened up, and basically now I'm just trying to clean up, the fan shroud, the fan. I've got the clutch for the fan out there, soaking in some degreaser, just because I don't, if I'm going to work on something, I want it to be, whatever I touch, I want it to be clean. And, I'm not going to worry about, like the valve cover lid. I sprayed it down with some brake cleaner and, you know, kind of cleaned it up a little bit better just so that there ain't, any oil on it. But, you know, anything that I touch on here, like the fan shroud, that stuff, it's easy enough while you have it out, to go ahead and just clean it up and, make it a little bit better, for the next time in case you do have to tear it back apart if you were to have, some sort of a problem. But, yeah, it should go back together fairly quickly. Basically, all I have to do now is get in here, put the new thermostat and gasket back in it. Put the outer housing on the thermostat on, and the fan pulley and fan shroud and upper radiator hose, and this thing will be pretty well done. Fill it up with coolant and should be good to go. All right, guys, I'm getting pretty close to almost being done. I still got a couple of things to put on, but putting these see it here, fan bolts back into the fan. I thought I'd give you guys just a little bit of a helpful tip to be able to get them in behind the clutch and the pulley right here. Just take some needle nose pliers like this, and there's a groove in the back side of that fan clutch, and you just kind of get it in there, and you might have to move the fan around a little bit, but just kind of get it in there and walk it in. It's just kind of a pain in the butt to get my hand in between that clutch and that fan, so using needle nose and doing it that way right there, it helps, makes it a little easier. But yeah, there you go on that. And well, there you have it. Basically got everything put back together, and I pretty much, I've put some coolant in it, and I've let it, kind of bleed down into the system there. But we just got to probably add just a little bit more coolant, and we'll be ready to fire this thing up and see how it goes. It honestly wasn't too bad, of a job getting it done. I kind of took my time just to make sure that, everything went back together right. And yeah, so I guess now we'll, get it fired up and, get it up to temperature and make sure the coolant is full. And I guess that'll be it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. With basically, simple hand tools, you can get in here and do this kind of work yourself too. Just as long as you, take your time and, just, pay attention to what you're doing. Stuff like this, you know, it can be kind of difficult at times. If you get a bolt that's, stuck, which, does happen on a 40-year-old vehicle. But, it's pretty straightforward, working on an older Mercedes like this whenever it comes to, doing what I've done here in the video. But, like I say, you don't really need any crazy, special tools to be able to do it. And, I hope, if you try to do, something like this yourself, um, I hope this video's helped you out. But, it's, it's kind of a never-ending thing with this car here. I got the leaks fixed. There's nothing leaking underneath there now, except for, oil, of course. I mean, it is a 40-year-old diesel, but I did just notice that either my brake caliper is leaking up here on the passenger front, or it's the brake hose. Either way, probably my next video is going to be replacing both front calipers, pads, and brake hoses. So if you like this kind of video, just kind of stay tuned on the channel, and give me a like if you like it, and if you want to subscribe to see whenever I put up another video, which might possibly be next weekend. You'll be informed, and we'll be good to go. But I guess until then, like I say, I hope you find this informational, and if you need any help or have any questions on how I done a few things on here, just put them down in the comments, and I'll reply to them as soon as I can. But thanks for watching.